This is the Tom Bigby Tales, and I'm your host, Shannon Evans. I write about a small town in northeast Mississippi called Columbus. And sometimes I write about the rest of the state. This episode is about another one of the antebellum homes here in Columbus, the last one completed before the Civil War, Baskerville Manor. The warm Mississippi night air hung heavy as Richard Moore settled into his chair at the poker table. Little did he know that this game would change his life and leave an indelible mark on the city of Columbus. Richard was born in Georgia in 1825 and came a long way from his humble beginnings. His parents, John and Nancy Booker Moore, had moved the family to Noxubee County, Mississippi when Richard was just a boy. Despite the challenges of frontier life, young Richard had shown promise, eventually attending the prestigious University of Georgia. Moore served as a captain in the Confederacy during the Civil War in Company G in the 8th Regiment Cavalry under W.B. Wade. Now, as the cards were dealt, Richard's keen mind, honed by years of political maneuvering as an alderman, the stakes were high, but none higher than the final pot, Baskerville Manor itself, as he defeated Marcellus Hatch and won the House. With Baskerville Manor as his new seat of power, Richard Moore's influence in Columbus grew rapidly. By 1887, he had secured his place as mayor, a position he would hold for multiple terms until 1890. His political acumen was matched only by his business sense. In 1893, President Grover Cleveland appointed Richard as postmaster of Columbus, a lucrative and influential position that further cemented his status among Columbus elite. On a balmy August evening in 1857, Richard had married his beloved Frances Fanny Antoinette Swope. Together, they raised a family that carried on his legacy of public service and civic leadership. Fanny Moore died February 1, 1880, and was buried in Friendship Cemetery. Their son Edwin followed in his father's footsteps, becoming a chancellery clerk and marrying into the prominent Harston family. But it was their daughter, Fanny Swope Moore, who truly carried the torch of political power. She would go on to marry J.T. Harrison, a Columbus native who rose to become lieutenant governor of Mississippi. In 1880, Richard remarried to Eugenia Morgan Drummond, the widow of Henley Franklin Drummond, who was killed in an accident. She was an independent, wealthy woman who owned the former James Lull home, Camellia Place. Their marriage was stormy, and they were on again, off again, on again, off again. They would separate, divorce, remarry, and separate again. As the summer of 1903 drew to a close, Richard Moore's remarkable life was nearing its end. On July 19th, surrounded by family in the city he had helped shape, Richard drew his final breath. Though still married to Eugenia at the time of his death, she is not mentioned in his obituary. The house remained in the Moore family for several generations. Richard was laid to rest in Friendship Cemetery, but his legacy lived on through the institutions he had built and the family he had raised. From a lucky hand of poker to the mayor's office, Richard Moore had played the game of life with skill and daring, leaving behind a transformed Columbus and a family poised to continue his work for generations to come. The next family to own Baskerville Manor was the Donaldson family. They would own the home from 1925 to 1965. Annie Donaldson was born on December 9, 1879, in Aberdeen, Mississippi. She came from a family with historical ties. As the daughter of Lemuel and Annie Bowen Donaldson, she would trace her lineage back to Rachel Jackson, wife of President Andrew Jackson. This connection to American history would set the stage for what would become the Hamilton family's place in Columbus. The Donaldson's family connection to Rachel Jackson was a source of pride and fascination. Rachel Jackson, born Rachel Donaldson, was known for her warm personality and the controversy surrounding her marriage to Andrew Jackson. This family connection gave Annie a unique perspective on American history and likely influenced her interest in preserving historical heritage later in life. In the early 1900s, Annie's path crossed that of Henry Coleman Hamilton, born on March 19, 1872, in Aberdeen, Mississippi. The two married in 1905, uniting the two prominent Mississippi families. While specific details of their wedding are scarce, marriages between prominent families in early 20th century Mississippi were often grand affairs. It's likely that the Hamilton-Donaldson wedding was a significant social event in Aberdeen, bringing together the two well-respected families and setting the stage for their future influence in Columbus. On October 26, 1925, the Hamiltons purchased what would become known as Hamilton Hall, a stately home that would serve as the backdrop for their family life for the next 4 decades. This acquisition marked the beginning of the Hamilton family's significant presence in Columbus. Hamilton Hall, built in the Italianate style popular in the late antebellum South, was constructed in the 1850s. The house featured characteristic elements of the style, such as columns, symmetrical shape, a wide entryway. The Hamiltons' purchase and subsequent care of this historic home demonstrated their commitment to preserving Columbus's architectural heritage. Henry Hamilton was a man of business acumen. He served as the secretary-treasurer of Coca-Cola Bottling Works of Columbus, demonstrating his skills in management and finance. Later in his career, in 1947, he joined the Waters and McCrary Gravel Company of Columbus, further cementing his place in the local business community. Henry's role at Coca-Cola was significant, as the early 20th century saw the rapid expansion of the Coca-Cola brand. His position would have involved overseeing the local production and distribution of this increasingly popular beverage, contributing to both the local economy and the broader success of the Coca-Cola Company. Henry's later involvement with Waters and McCrary Gravel Company highlights the importance of construction and infrastructure industries in mid-20th century Mississippi. Gravel companies played a crucial role in the region's development, providing materials for road construction and building projects. The Hamiltons were active members of First Presbyterian Church, illustrating their commitment to faith and community. They also participated in the town's annual pilgrimage for many years, opening their home, then named Hamilton Hall, to visitors and sharing its history. The Columbus Pilgrimage, an annual event that began in 1940, allowed visitors to tour historic antebellum homes. The Hamiltons' participation in this event was crucial in showcasing Columbus's rich architectural heritage. Visitors to Hamilton Hall during these pilgrimages would have been treated to stories of the house's history and the Hamilton family's connections to early American history through Annie Donaldson's lineage. As prominent members of Columbus society, the Hamiltons likely hosted and attended numerous social events. These gatherings would have been opportunities for business networking, community planning, and maintaining social ties within Columbus's upper class. Henry Hamilton passed away on March 19, 1943, his 71st birthday, in Memphis, Tennessee. He was laid to rest in his birthplace of Aberdeen, Mississippi. Annie, now a widow, continued to live in Hamilton Hall. In 1957, the local newspaper, The Dispatch, featured an article about the house during the pilgrimage, highlighting its historical significance and the family's role in preserving it. After Henry's death, Annie maintained an active role in Columbus society. Her continued participation in the pilgrimage and upkeep of Hamilton Hall demonstrated her personal commitment to historical preservation and community engagement. These years also likely saw her taking on a more prominent role in managing family affairs and continuing the Hamilton legacy in Columbus. Annie remained in Hamilton Hall until November 1965. At this point, due to her advancing age and frailty, she moved to a nursing home. Just a month later, on December 26, 1965, Annie passed away, bringing to a close the Hamilton family's 40-year tenure in the house. After Annie's departure, the future of Hamilton Hall became a topic of community interest. The house, having been meticulously maintained by the Hamiltons for 4 decades, stood as a testament to Columbus's antebellum architecture and the family's dedication to historical preservation. The community likely engaged in discussions about how best to preserve this important piece of local history. The story of the Hamilton family from 1925 to 1965 is more than just a family history. It's a narrative that intertwines with the broader history of Columbus. Through their business endeavors, community involvement, and preservation of Hamilton Hall, the Hamiltons left an indelible mark on the town's landscape and social fabric. The Hamiltons' legacy in Columbus extends beyond their personal achievements. Their preservation of Hamilton Hall contributed to the town's historical narrative and helped establish Columbus as the destination for those interested in antebellum architecture and Southern history. The family's involvement in local business, from Coca-Cola to the gravel industry, played a role in shaping the local economy during a period of significant change in the American South. Moreover, their active participation in community events, particularly the Columbus Pilgrimage, helped foster a sense of civic pride and historical awareness among Columbus residents. This commitment to community and history set a precedent for future generations, encouraging the continued preservation of Columbus's rich cultural heritage. In many ways, the story of the Hamilton family mirrors the broader narrative of the American South in the mid-20th century, a story of tradition and progress, of preserving the past while adapting to a changing world. Their legacy serves as a valuable lens through which we can understand the social, economic, and cultural dynamics of this pivotal period in Columbus's history. Thank you for coming on my podcast, The Tom Bigby Tales. Until next time.